Hello, everyone. Dean Kelley again with the Georgia Transparency Coalition. We're here in Dalton, Georgia at the GOP headquarters. And right now we're visiting with Jevin Jensen, who is a candidate for the Whitfield County Chairman of the Board of Commissioners. Yeah. Thank you for being with us today.
Happy to be here. Thanks for coming over.
Yeah. You're a newcomer to politics or elective office anyway?
That's right.
You've probably been involved in politics in the background for
yeah, 10, 15 years probably. Yep, that's my first time at the chairmanship. That's right.
Okay, well, for those that don't know you, just give us a little bit of background about who Jevin is.
Okay, sure. I was born and raised and went to high school, went to college, got married, started a family, started a career, bought a business, all within 30 miles of where we're sitting right here in Dalton, Georgia. I went to college at University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. Back then, Dalton State was a 2-year school, and I went to 4-year business school. And they gave me a $600 scholarship. Believe it or not, that covered my tuition each semester, but it didn't quite cover my room and board. So I had to work at a local hardware store to kind of pay my way and cover my food and books and things like that. So I worked 20 years right here in Dalton also in the floor covering industry after I graduated. And then I kind of got to go back to my dream, and my wife and I 3 years ago bought a local hardware store here in Darnell, just up the road here. So we've been working for 3 years, got some great employees, and we basically turned it around. We've doubled the revenue, doubled the staff, increased the size of it, so we're really pleased with that. And I really appreciate all the great customers of Whitfield County supporting us, giving us the chance. It was a little bit run down to start with, but we've turned it around, and hopefully that experience will help me with the Board of Commissioners as well.
Okay. Well, what motivated you to want to run?
Well, several things. As I mentioned, my daughter, we started a family here in Whitfield County. My daughter was born, she's been through the Whitfield County schools. She's in high school right now. So in about 4 years, she'll be hopefully going off to college. And you look at the statistics, and 62% of the people either have a kind of a false choice, really. They either live here and make below the median average for the state and certainly below for the nation, or they live somewhere else. And I want her to live here, and I want her to have a good job. I don't want her to have to pick and make that false choice. Our income levels have not recovered from 2009, so they're still below the state average and still below the U.S. average. So even if you adjust them for inflation, we have not recovered for 10 or 11 years now. So we've got to do something different. So she has opportunities. So the kids and grandkids that are out there for all our citizens, have better opportunities.
Okay, so what are the big campaign issues? What do you see as being the big issues moving forward?
I would think 3 things. First, we've got to reduce property taxes. If you look over the last 8 years, they have increased over twofold. So if you're a county resident, you're paying twice as much in county taxes as you were 8 years ago. So for example, a $150,000 house, which is the median house in the county, you're paying $432 more per year for that house than you were without adjusting for the value of the house. That's on top of the $432 a year. So that's really adding up, and we're running people off to Catoosa, running people off to Gordon counties where they have a lower tax rate and even better quality of life. So they got the best of both worlds. They can have a cheaper standard of living and have more to do, and we've got to change that. So we've got to reduce property taxes. We've got to freeze them at least and then start gradually reducing them. We can't go on this upward trajectory, doubling it every 8 years. That's just not going to work. Okay.
So how are you going to make up the difference? Do you have to rely on splosh taxes or T-splosh taxes or any of that, or are you just going to slow down growth?
Well, one of the things that the growth of the budget has increased. I think it's over $10 million in the last 4 or 5 years. So we're up to $49 million. We were below 40 not too long ago. So now we're pushing $50 million. So that has grown a lot to match the taxes. So they find a place to spend the money every time. But it's not really about that. I've been studying the budget. I've been to over 125 county commissioner and city council meetings in Whitfield County. I've been to every city in the county and visited that. Maybe the only private citizen that's been to every city council meeting at least once, but 125 in total. I've studied every budget, made contacts with these people, the mayors, the department heads. I know these budgets, and there's several places we can find that money to cover the tax reduction. One, there was a $1.8 million budget surplus last year, so we can give that back because it's really an overtax if you look at it that way. They didn't need it in the budget, they taxed you anyway, so we can give that back to the citizens. There is a $2.5 million transfer fee. That's a one-time transfer from the solid waste fund. So we overcharged you on tipping fees at the solid waste when you went down to the dump, and that created a $2.5 million surplus. So that got transferred last month to the county's budget. So that's another place we can use without cutting any services. And then let's see, on top of that, there is also a bond that's coming due. We've been paying on the Carbondale Industrial Park for 10 years now, principal and interest. That has finally been paid off. Will this year. So for next year's taxes, we'll have that we won't have to pay. Let's just make sure we don't spend it on anything, but we can capture those three savings, and we don't have to cut any services, we don't have to lay off any people, and we can still cut our taxes that way.
Wow.
I had a couple other things that I wanted to
I thought you were done. I'm sorry.
No, with this COVID-19, that was the real surprise. That really impacted us a lot. A lot of people have a high level of concern about that, and that's fully understandable. So I want to make sure that the families can stay in their homes. In 2009, when we had the housing crisis, a lot of people got thrown out of their homes, and I want to make sure we don't repeat those mistakes. So if your property taxes are due in December and you've been impacted by the virus, whether it's your job or you're having to care for yourself or a loved one that came down with it, I want to give you terms to pay your property tax bill. I want to waive those fees, so I have to work with the state officials and local officials to make that happen, but I'm willing to do that. We're not going to throw people out of their homes just because they were impacted either economically or medically by this virus. So that's the second thing that I came out with. And then the final thing is we've really got to focus on small businesses.
I was getting ready to bring it up.
Yeah, we've been trying to get the next Volkswagen to move to Whitfield County, and that's a noble goal, and we tried for 10, 11 years to bring something like that, or a large car maker, to our Carbondale Industrial Park. That's not going to happen. We just don't have enough space. We don't have enough land. We did land the solar company. I don't have any problem with Q-Cells. My only concern is that we paid tens of millions of dollars for them to come here, and we only got 700 jobs. So that's out of 64,000 jobs in the metro area. So that's a lot of jobs, and just to get 700, which is barely 1% of them, for tens of millions of free land and tax abatements, that's a high price to pay. But I'm fine with the company, I'm fine with the jobs, I just think we pay too much for those jobs.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think that happens a lot across the state, is that all these local counties and communities are in competition with each other to bring in these heavy hitter jobs that come in, and many times the elected representatives are so eager to bring in those jobs, we pay too much for them. We give away more than what we're going to get for that.
And that doesn't even count the schools. I wouldn't have any role in the schools, but they have to educate all those children. They don't get any property taxes either for it, so they get all this extra expense and nothing for it. And the county gets some jobs, but then they don't get any taxes for 10 years. That's a long time. Yeah. So the only answer that I see is we have to focus more on small businesses. And that's the other kind of unintended consequences of giving all this money away to a big, North Korean or a South Korean company, is that, the small businesses that have been here for 25 years, been gradually growing, paying their taxes that have been going up the last 10 to 20 years also. And they said, well, what about me? I didn't get anything. So we picked a winner from Korea, and then we told the local guy who's been paying his taxes diligently, hiring a couple people every year, growing his staff, growing his little business. I'm sorry, we're not going to do anything for you. And that's just, and those are the guys that really need it. So we can look at incubators, we can look at startup funds with some of these local guys that used to be in flooring that are now retired, to really help with startups, help with the existing small businesses that are here, because they need the high-paying jobs, the white-collar jobs. They need attorneys and lawyers and marketing guys and accountants, where the Korean solar company, all those white-collar, all those good-paying, high-dollar jobs, they're all in Korea. That's the way corporations work. You have a headquarters, all the plants, you don't need those kind of people. You got a plant manager and HR person, that's it. But small businesses, they need all those skills. They either have to get them from another group locally, which increases our economy, or they have to hire them and bring them on their staff, like the CPAs and accountants and those type of folks that are good paying jobs. And that's what we need to go after. I'm fine with the assembly and the forklift guys and the people working the plants, but they need a path where they can advance their careers too and not just be stuck.
Yeah, and of course, the development authorities across the state seem to be more focused on bringing in the big fish. So how are you going to work, or how are you going to change the mindset with the development authority to get them to focus on small businesses like that?
Well, I volunteer on an entrepreneur committee here locally, and so one of the things we do every year is we sponsor that Shark Tank competition where we bring in these companies, not just local companies, but even companies from around the country that are small businesses that are trying to launch their business, launch their product. And we have a lot of empty buildings around town. I think we can get some grants to refurbish those and give them the first 6 months of free rent in the building, for example. To have a retired executive, okay, I'm going to be your mentor. I'm not charging you anything, but this is how you do payroll. This is how you do your budgets. This is how you do your strategic plan. and help them roll out, help them make contacts, not in just our community, but nationwide if they need to. So we've got a lot of talented people here, and I think we can get buy-in for that because we're refurbishing our existing buildings and infrastructure. We're bringing in new businesses, and I think I can convince that between the Chamber of Commerce here locally and our state development, our joint development authority here that we have as well.
Okay, some good ideas. Well, before we part, do you want to give anybody final thoughts on reasons why they need to vote for you for chairman?
Well, I would just wrap it up and say, a lot of people that I go into the community, they say, I'm looking for common sense. I don't feel like there's a voice that represents me, the small guy out there, the independent person in the county. Where's the common sense on these decisions for tax abatements, for spending, for investments in small businesses, things like that. So I want to bring the common sense approach. I've been a small business owner for several years. I have hundreds of customers that come in on a Saturday, 400 or 500 customers that come in on a Saturday. I have to provide customer service. I want to treat all the citizens as my customer. You will get respect when you come to talk to us, whether it's one-on-one or in our commissioners meeting. You will be treated like a customer, and that's really my goal.
Fantastic. You've been visiting with Jevin Jensen, candidate for chairman of the Board of Commissioners here in Whitfield County, and I'm sure you'll be hearing more from him soon. Thank you so much for meeting with us today.
Thank you.